All right, let's go. So, first question. I mean, for you guys, Carlitos, your love for music comes from your family, from your dad.
Right.
You want to talk about that?
Yeah, my father was Carlos Miranda. He was a legendary singer. In that time, it was Chicano music back in the 70s and 80s as well, but around the Little Joe eras and stuff from Joe Bravo. My dad was an artist for Freddie Records, had many hits with that, and so kind of was born into the music industry unwillingly. They take me out of the dances, put me on the table, and so I was just kind of forced to go to all these dances, you know, but I fell in love with the music. My dad would always share other artists with me, especially when they were young artists that were coming out, like La Sombra and things of that nature. And so fell into the music industry, into that, and soon after that I got that bug into where I wanted to sing, and started getting my friends from school and trying to put a garage band together, you know, and I kind of did this without explaining to my dad that I was going to do it. It was kind of like a surprise. My mom was my biggest supporter, of course, and so kind of fell into that, and got some guys together from school and put a band together, and we started, you know, performing, you know, well, practicing actually. And soon after that, around that time, the Tejano music industry was kind of going around the awards and things of that nature. And so I was attending them just to be a fan, you know, and I was approached by A.B. Quintanilla, the third, and he knew who my dad was, and asked me kind of like what I was up to, and I just said I was just here, you know, just checking it out. It was a pre-award shows that were going on prior to the main awards, and then next thing you know, he kind of said, "Hey, I'd like to check out your band," and he actually did come. I didn't think he would. We didn't have cell phones in that time, and next thing you know, he called my home phone, and he was outside my house, and went in and got my band together, and I guess you could call it a showcase, you know, kind of showcase then, and the rest was history. Next thing you know, I was on the tour with him and his sister and Selena y Los Dinos, and his father was managing me, and that was actually my first tour ever, and back in 1991, somewhere around there. And it was a great university for me. I learned a lot at that early age on. The one thing that I have of that memory was performing for the Selena Live album, the one that won the Grammy, you know, and got to open up for her for quite a few years, you know, and that was an experience that I'll never forget.
Is that where the friendship comes from? So
Well,
how did the two of you get hooked up? Was it there?
Well,
or was it before there?
it was before that. So I knew Chris way before I even met AB. I was again, you know, I was a fan of the music industry, of the Tejano scene, and I was following this one particular artist, and he invited me to one of his rehearsals, and when I went to one of his rehearsals, that's where I met Chris. You know, he introduced me, and he was he was a guitar player for his group, and we met and we hit it off, you know, and that's where the friendship began. Of course, we both had the love for rock, you know, 80s rock. And that's kind of like where the friendship began. And
Yeah, that was like, that was a little bit, like maybe a year or two before I joined Selena's
Right.
band. So
Yeah.
he's known me
Yeah.
since, we were really.
yeah,
You guys knew each other before that.
correct. Yeah. So I knew him as a musician and just all around great guy, you know, and I just loved the way he played, you know, seeing someone at that time performing what you would see on MTV and all that, you're like, what? Wow, you know. And so he was just a disciplined musician that was just learning everything and anything, and the friendship grew from there. And then soon after that, he gets an opportunity to join Selena y Los Dinos, and at that time, you know, I didn't kind of know who she was. It was a man-dominant kind of industry at that time, and you know, he gets on that tour, and of course, you know, all the support in the world. And soon after that, you know, I'm kind of trying to find my place and what I'm going to do. And that's when I met AB. And then next thing you know, it was a great thing because I was like, well, it was a great thing that I got on a tour, but then it was also another great thing that I had to share it with him as well.
So with you guys loving rock and you're doing Tejano, I mean, talk a little bit about that and then the evolution from where Tejano used to be to what you guys are doing. It's kind of like a means to get to where you were at now.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty good combination of the music that we love to do. Part of our past, our history, which is Tejano music, will always be. I'll always consider myself. I know Carlos as well. We'll always consider ourselves to be Tejano musicians, no matter what style we're playing, because we're from Texas. But the metal music it's a really cool, in my opinion, it's a really cool fusion of what we're about, the rock elements and aspects, with I would even say cumbia kind of rhythm patterns, and we just combine a lot of Latin influences with the rock thing that we like to do, and that's kind of, you mix all that stuff together and you get Grupo Metal, like, you mix Maná with Juanes, Santana, shoot, even some Van Halen, you know, AC/DC. We mix all our influences together into metal, and it's pretty cool how it worked out. You know, it doesn't. I know it sounds weird, the description, but when you hear the music, it's very. I mean, I love it. A lot of people, everybody we played it for, has fallen in love with it. They like the way we fuse the rock stuff into the Latin kind of rhythm patterns and things like that.
It's kind of very American because you're bringing your own background of being, Hispanic, Latino, Tejanos, with stuff that we grew up with. Like you were talking about the 80s rock music. I mean, what was your favorite in the 80s?
Well, Motley Crue, of course. Just seeing the whole MTV era, the lights, the stage, you see all of that. And when you actually get to go see these things live, you're just kind of like, wow, And so we always carried that. I was a fan of that music. He was a fan of that music. And just talking about it, the magazines, the album covers, and that's kind of like what I did with the Metal project. I wanted to go back to art designing of the logos of the albums back in the day when you would see bands' names and people's artistry on there and things of that nature. And, I think every artist tries to find their place and try to find their sound. And man, I've been in the industry since '91, that it took me all this time to finally find my place and find my sound. I never wanted just to do something just to do it. And it all happened organically. And, when Chris mentioned to me, he's like, well, this is what I believe the sound was. We are metal, let's be metal. And when he presented that to me, I was like, that's it right there. I had heard enough, and I was like, okay, we're on to something here.
I think his thing was, you don't think the guitars are too loud? I'm like, duh, what's the name of the band? Like, let's just stick with that.
Okay.
Let's keep it real.
My kids hate me driving them to school because they're like, God, Mommy, it's so loud. It's like, but it's how we grew up.
Yeah.
It's listening to Motley Crue. It's listening to Van Halen. It's listening to rap.
Yeah.
And for you, you knew you loved all of that. How did your parents treat you growing up listening to that and being Mexicano from Texas?
Yeah. Well, I think, like, for me, as a guitar player, like, growing up, hard rock, had some interesting guitar things to start learning and to follow. That's why I kind of focused more on rock as a guitar player. But the truth is, and I know Carlos as well, we listen to everything from country music to classical music to, like Frank Sinatra. I'm a big Frank Sinatra fan. It used to be a secret. I don't think it's that much of a secret anymore. We talk about it so much these days. But we listen to all different kinds of music, and it's true what you say, in my opinion, the louder the better, right? Any type of music, really, to be honest. But we have so many different influences. It's just that the rock thing is, if I had to pick one style and one style only, I would go with that, with rock and roll and bands that you mentioned, Van Halen, Ozzy, Motley Crue, AC/DC, and the list goes on and on.
Which they're still around today, to see them still doing what they do. For me, whoever was my babysitter out of my brothers and sisters, if it was with my sister, it was R&B. If it was my mom, it was country. If it was my dad, it was Mexicano. And then my brother was all rock. And it was just like the equalizers. I'm going back in the time when there was equalizers in car stereos and things of that nature. And it was crank it up, you know, and that's the love that I fell in love with, you know, the sound of that.
Talk to me about Volare.
Well, it is a song that I had. I mean, I was just listening to the original sound of it, and it's completely not the way you hear it today. You know, I've had this song in my mind for quite some time. That you know, when I had metal going on locally in the rock en español eras of the clubs in San Antonio. I had gotten to a point where I was just getting tired of doing the cover tunes. And so I kind of wanted to change and try to figure out what I could do. And Volare came around. I was seeing a lot of things happening in Mexico that were going around out there. And that's kind of like the basic where I came with the idea of Volare, talking about La Guerra, of stuff that was going on in Mexico. And but it's a song that I feel that goes in even with families, struggles, you know, individuals, whether it's relationships, work, whatever it is. It was just a song that I decided to come up with the lyrics on that type of issues that were kind of going on. And we had put some music behind it, and I've had it there in the vault for quite some time. And when COVID kind of happened, that's kind of like where you really had some time to reset and think about things. And it was one of those things to where I just started listening to these songs and started like, maybe there's something that we can do with these songs. And sure enough, it was a complete opposite thing of what we did with it, if you was to hear the original the way you hear it now. But I think that's in anything that people end up working on and producing. And I was lucky enough to have Chris to be a part of it and jump on it. And it was all magical, you know, and so I can't wait for everybody to continue to hear Volare. It's on all digital platforms.
Okay, so with that said, first time I met you was probably around the time that you had joined Selena and Los Dinos. I was on air, KXTN, young as could be, green as could be. And I mean, even how we played the music, you know, we all knew the bathroom break song was the 8-track, throw it in, we had the CDs. Everything has changed now. So from the time when you used to walk into a KXTN and do an interview to nowadays, how big is the change for you guys with digital?
Well, I mean, everything is so like easily accessible. There was a period of time where I was kind of, I sounded like, I hate to say it like this, but I sounded like an old man, you know, like, you kids have it easy now, whatever, you know, you just log on to YouTube and you can whatever. I used to have to get the needle on the record and like find the spot I wanted to learn and keep doing that over and over again. But what I've realized is that that's life. I mean, things just keep moving forward, and the kids that have YouTube right now, whatever, and things are moving so fast, like within the next couple of years is going to be the new format or forum of ways to learn how to play music or how to play an instrument. And it's going to constantly be, you know, because even when going back to my time learning as a kid and learning, you know, with the record player, I mean, before that, like, if you think about it, I know records have been around for a really long time, but before that, not everybody had a record player or could find records. And like, I imagine back in the classical musician days, like, you had to wait for somebody to come to town and then hopefully get into the venue they were playing at and watch them and try to remember everything they were doing and then go home and learn it that way, you know. And then from there, then you have records, and I'm sure those old timers are like, oh, well, you got records, and you know what I mean? So I think things are moving so fast, and I'm a fan of it. I'm really interested to see where things are going. You know, I don't want to stay stagnant and be that guy like, I was back in the day. You know, we used to do it this way. Like, I want to keep experimenting, and I mean, that's what with metal. It was a natural progression. I mean, we started. It was just strictly a thing for fun. Like, I was on the road with what at the time was the All-Stars?
The All-Stars,
With
yeah.
the All-Stars, and when we would get off the road, Carlos and a couple of other friends, they were like, hey, let's put a band together and just play songs that we love to play, and let's just go out for the fun of it, you know. And that's really how this version of Metal started. And then it went from that to, you know, gradually the progression went to, things just started getting bigger and bigger, and then we went to original material, and now we're recording it and releasing it. And I mean, I'm happy with the results, and we've got what,
We have five track
songs?
EP, yeah. And you know, Metal started after Tejano industry had kind of shifted. I came across this rock en español thing in San Antonio. There was a club called Bongoleo, you know. There was Club Antro, Tequila Republic, Planeta Mexico. I mean, and so when I would walk in there, I was like, what is this? And the one thing that caught my eye, you would see Ferraris, Lamborghinis, you would see these people just dressed up. It was a different scene from Tejano to this, and I was just like, this is what I like. And I was so influenced by all the groups from La Ley, Enanitos Verdes, Maná, you know, Luis Miguel, of course, you know. And I got the opportunity to be the house band in Planeta Mexico, and that's where it took off, and I came up with the name Grupo Metal. But Metal, the name was Carlos Miranda Jr. y su Grupo Metal during the Selena days. So when I came into the rock en español, I thought, man, what am I gonna name the group? And I was like, whoa, let's just stay with Grupo Metal. And that's pretty much, it was history after that. I had a great career doing that. Madison Avenue was the biggest for Grupo Metal, where Madison Avenue pretty much, it was like our residency there for San Antonio. I didn't have to travel outside of Texas or even out of town anywhere else, because Madison Avenue wanted us to be very exclusive Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. And that was a guaranteed show for the next 2-3 years. I invited Chris to come out. Some of the guys from Carlos Santana would come. Jerry Jones's kids, the Dallas Cowboys bus would be outside. Like, it was like the Steel Panther of LA, I believe, for Texas, you know. But it was small and quiet, and anybody who was going to school at UTSA or Incarnate or anything, they were from Laredo, Mexico, the Valley. So it was its own thing, you know, that no one really knew about. And all the bands that would come in, like Café Tacuba, they would play at Planeta Mexico. They didn't come to the Joe Freeman or any kind of arenas. It was these small clubs. And Alejandra Guzman, you know, the rest was history on that end. And that's kind of like where I fell in love with all of that. And it was way too easy, because you were just imitating these songs, and we sounded just like the band. And it was a great time. It was great. And part of Metal now, that's kind of like when Chris was talking about the digital world, and, you know, there's no right or wrong way. You know what I mean? You just got to just keep on and keep moving and with the times. You know, tomorrow's the next day. Yesterday is already gone, you know. So it's been very interesting to see how things have been. And so Chris was right about one thing about us being Tejanos, and that's kind of like what we wanted to do is contribute to that rock en español era of like this cumbia rock that we kind of created in its own way. And I'm very happy with it, and I'm very happy of the universities that I got to attend to, and I say that with Selena, La Mafia, my father, my parents, Chris. I just got to see so many things behind the scenes, you know, and to see it, to work with Metal today, it's a great experience.
What do you want people to take away from where the music from Texas that comes from people who are Mexican American background? What do you want people to take away from your music and where we are at right now as Latinos?
I would say just have an open mind across the board, as I am. I mean, I don't ever take away from anything. What you see is what you get, you know, and we are results of who we are, rock lovers, Tejanos, Mexicanos, you know, and I feel that we represent Texas, and getting to go and perform Milwaukee, you know, California, Arizona, all these different areas that we get to go and participate in, we showcase of who we are, you know. So it's like, I just ask everybody to have an open mind, never look at what name's there or who's what or whatever, just listen to the song and go from there, as if anything else. That's one thing that I loved about the old times is when they would present a premiere, a song. You really didn't know who they were. Either you liked it or you didn't. And that's kind of like the way I showcase this with Metal. It's who we are, and not everybody will like our style, but we're like painters. Every song is different. There's a different theme. One will give you Brazil, you know, one will give you different styles of everything. You know, there's just a lot of themes. To me, these 5-track songs that we have they're soundtracks. They all have a theme to them that I like, you know. So I expect just everybody to have an open mind with it.
Let me ask you this, because I know people will be like, why didn't she ask? What do you think Selena would say about this type of music now?
Oh, what we're doing?
Yeah.
Oh, she'd love it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even hesitate to answer that. She would love it. You know, not only because it's good, right? Not only because of that. I mean, honestly, she was a very supportive person, with her family, with her friends, myself being married to her, you know. So I think she would have loved it. And I know that a lot of, even a lot of our friends now that hadn't heard anything that we've been working on, or they had heard different projects that we've been working on, just not this one. And when they heard it, I mean, it's the response from them has been just, you know, I'm pleasantly surprised with all of it.
For you, and you and I talked about this, you said, you know, people didn't know, like, you knew her before then. The way I always see her from my own personal experiences with her, a kind human being who always was very full of life and loved hearing different things. Because that's the one thing that I always remember from being in that DJ booth, and I would have conversations with her. It was the music you're talking about. I love Maná.
Right.
Enanitos Verdes. All of that just weaved into who we are like today.
Yeah.
So,
no, she was an all around. Take away who she is with the world, you would still want to hang out with her because she was that cool friend. She loved to dance. I danced with her many times. Again, I say this, well, I've been saying it. I don't know what it is to be a fan of him, and I wouldn't know what it is to be a fan of her, because I knew them personally, and before whatever you would call it to be what it is today. You take away his musicianship, I'd still be a good friend to him because he's just that great of a guy, you know. And yeah, I mean, she would have loved it. I owe it to her in a way because of the name Grupo Metal. It came from that. So a lot of people didn't know, you know, where it came from. And I never wanted to be that guy to where I would be like, well, let me name drop. But the facts of life are what they are, you know what I mean? You can't deny that, you know. So I think with this particular project, if she were to hear it, I agree. I think she would love it and be very supportive, you know, that's for sure.
what's the next single? You said you have a next single that you're working on?
Yeah, it's called La Flor, which is my second favorite of this album. You really get to hear Chris in a different, well, I mean, you've always heard him. He does what he does, you know. And but this is going to take you to Brazil, to Rio de Janeiro. I actually had a dream that I met a girl in a cafe, and she shows me Brazil, you know. And it was a very romantic rendezvous. And I wake up, and next thing you know, there's a flower she had left, and the journey begins of where I take that flower, and I'm looking for her all over Brazil. So I'm excited for that single to come out, and look forward to it from Grupo Metal and all our social media platforms, and also on all the digital platforms that will be released this year as well.
And then you were telling me you were in New Jersey. So what else are you still working on other stuff?
Yeah. No, we've been, it's been 2024. The year has been awesome. With all the different ventures that have kind of come across the table for me, and like Grupo Metal being one of them. The hot sauce that I have is still doing really good. I have a wine that's coming out.
Tell me about the wine. That's what I wanted to hear about.
Yeah, it might be. We're trying. I'm going to LA in a few days, and I'm gonna get obviously, I already know what the product is. We've already worked really hard at the getting the right blend of grapes for the actual thing. It tastes really good. It's a red wine, but I'm gonna go to LA here in a couple of days and look at for the first time the bottle with the label. Super proud of everything that it's the way it looks, the way it tastes. But I think we're trying to get it out by the end of October, early November. So it's any day now. It's going to be. You'll be seeing it on. We'll post on social medias and all that
What's
kind of
the name
stuff.
of it?
It's called 14, but it's Roman numerals. So it's the X, the 1, and the V, and then it's got the really cool gold embossed lion with the crown, because I'm a Leo, and there's a whole when you look at the label, you'll see a lot of little clues in there, some from my present, my past, music,
Very Taylor Swift.
I guess. You know what? She puts out so much music, I'm lost by this point, but I love her stuff. She's up next.
And it's going to be limited edition, right? The wine.
It is. It's limited edition, and then we'll probably do, because wine, the way it is it's hard. It's difficult to, I don't want to just stick with one. Because with the different seasons come the different grapes and the different blends and the different things you can do, and I want to really get into all that, which I've started to do. Super interesting. The people in the wineries and, and the vineyards or whatever, they're super. I'm trying to get educated on it and hanging out with all these kind of people. It's just been very interesting. I love it. And then you get to drink wine, so.
Of course. If I can ask you, the last thing I'm going to ask you, could you guys play some of your new songs? Did you bring your guitar?
Oh.
I did, but we just got, we have it. We'll see what we can do. It's
okay.
Just. Honestly, I just brought a guitar that you won't even hear it, because it's just, I thought we were going to do B-roll or whatever.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
I was like, we should bring an acoustic. He's like, I'll
I
just
didn't
bring
know,
the electric.
I didn't know. I just
That's
thought,
all right. That's all right. You want to sing some of it?
Sure.
Sing some of it?
Well, let's see. Let me see if we can even hear this thing, because
oh my God. I think it was probably about 2 years ago. A lot of people that have known me know that I was a DJ at KXTN.
Yeah.
But I really opened up a little bit more